Welcome, folks. This is an impromptu stream. I was just on my way to the United States and again, denied entry. But I want to tell you the story because it's quite interesting. So I'll kind of wait and let people trickle in and say hello. I'm going to tell this story because I think it actually speaks to a lot about where we're at today and particularly the state of the United States and how insane the United States is right now. Especially when you factor in all these migrants, illegal migrants coming across in El Paso, that law-abiding citizen such as myself gets denied entry. So, hey folks, come on in, welcome. I'm going to tell this story because I'm still going to give my talk at the Land and Build Summit. I'm just going to do it on a Zoom call, and which sucks, but it is what it is, right? And unfortunately, we have the technology here that I can do that. But I was really, really, really looking forward to hanging out with people down there. Like that was for me the ultimate. I wasn't being paid for this talk, but according to U.S. code, I'll tell you here, this is absolutely under immigration law, U.S. code 212. Brackets lowercase a, brackets lowercase 7, brackets uppercase a, brackets lowercase I, brackets uppercase I. According to that code in the United States, I am not allowed to come in and speak at a conference if they're paying for the hotel and the flight. That is considered remuneration. According to I haven't looked this up yet because I just got back. I spent 3 hours with the fucking idiot border guards. And I tried to, so I'm not going to tell you the name of the crossing or where, but you guys know I live in southern BC. And so the US is fairly close. This time, instead of flying, I thought I'd just drive down to the US because there's a US city with an airport that's actually closer than any other towns that I could fly from in British Columbia. And it would actually be a faster trip. And that's what everybody else in this area does. They just drive down to the US and fly from there. And so that was the plan. I was going to catch a connecting flight to Denver and then connect from Denver to Austin. And then somebody would pick me up in Austin and take me to Bastrop and go to the awesome Exit and Build conference, which I was so excited to go to and hang out with people. I see Texas boys in the chat. You guys, I'm sorry. It's absolutely insane. I was so stoked to hang out with you guys and just shoot the shit, go out for steaks or something, or just hang out, whatever. I was just so stoked to come down and socialize and hang out with people because I'm a very social guy, but I haven't been that social outside of my local community here and outside of my family for years because of the COVID scam and all that nonsense. And so I was really looking forward to hanging out with some people. And yeah, no, somebody made a comment about being blacklisted. I started getting red flagged years ago, and every time I crossed, it would just go in. Keep it short. Yeah, dude, that's not the way it works, brother. It's not. When you have a thing on your passport, every time you scan that passport, they see something. And so it's got nothing to do with anything I said at all, because everything I was doing was within the letter of the law, at least to my knowledge. But they thought otherwise. So let me tell the story. So people are trickling in. So you guys, I'm going to tell you a story. Hopefully it won't last 3 hours. But if you're curious, and if I have any immigration lawyers on the stream, go ahead and look this up for me and tell me what you say. So this is the article. This is the guy who wrote this down for me because I said, why is it? And he said, under immigration, whatever the Immigration Act is or whatever, that's the article. Okay. 212, lowercase a, 7, uppercase a, lowercase I, capital I. That's the article. That's the reason that they turned me down, because they say under this article, and again, I haven't looked this up yet. I didn't have time. I just wanted to come and explain to the people that were hoping to see me down there at the summit that I will not be arriving in person because of this. And they say it's because according to that statute, under immigration law, remuneration includes compensation for expenses. So if I would have been going into the US and getting paid as a speaker, and getting paid money, most people would assume that you would need some kind of business visa to do that. Okay, that's all. That seems common sense to me, right? But no, even if they're paying for your flight and hotel, which they didn't ever pay me anything, they just went and bought the tickets for me and then took care of the hotel for me. So I didn't have to do anything. That's considered remuneration under this stupid fucking act. Okay. So this story gets interesting because this was actually a very eye-opening experience, and it's pretty dark actually. What I'm going to tell you, because I'm a people person, and I build rapport very quickly and very easily in very awkward situations. I'm very good. Every time I've ever been railroaded by the US, which I'm literally at this point hundreds of hours, because I've been speaking in the US and teaching in the US and doing business in the United States for years. Somebody says, just lie. Yeah, if you want to end up in a fucking prison, just lie. No, thank you. Anyways, I'm not going to pay attention to the chat because it's going to derail my story. So anyway, so I get to the border crossing and everything. I have a letter from John Bush saying, hey, he's not being paid, but we've paid for his hotel and his flights and all this. We all thought that was all well and good. Apparently it's not. And so I go through, the guy asks me a few questions when I'm there at the crossing. And then he says, okay, well, you got to go talk to these guys. They're going to have more questions for you. Okay. Yeah. I was expecting this. I booked in, I added myself I was just a couple hours drive from this place in the US that I was going to fly from. And so I gave myself a number of hours expecting that they would do this dog and pony show with me, because this is every time. And so, okay, yeah, no problem. And I'm all chipper, and I got nothing to hide, right? I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm not doing anything against any whatever. At the same time, I don't have time to read the entire immigration law statutes. So I'm doing what I think is appropriate under the letter of the law, according to US Customs. And so anyways, I go into the office there. And have you ever had these experiences with these guys? They like to make you squirm. So there's 4 people that worked at this little, it's one of the smallest crossings. Well, I don't know, there's a lot of crossings, but it's a very small crossing that goes through here. And it's apparently, even during COVID, I have friends in the area that were going across the border at that crossing in particular, because they said they just let you through. And I thought, oh, okay, well, this is great because it's close to me anyways, and I have to go that way. Oh, okay, this is great. This is going to be sweet. So they get me into the office there. And seriously, when I walk in, and there's 3 other guys in the office, the other guy's out in the terminal thing. Okay, have a seat there, sir. We'll be with you in a few minutes. I sit down, 5 minutes go by. They're just bullshitting with each other about stuff totally unrelated to my case. They're just bullshitting, talking whatever, gossip in their office building or whatever. And I said, hey guys, how's it going here? Are you gonna let me through today? You know, just asking a question. He said, no, we're gonna have some issues here. I said, okay. So anyways, I waited probably 20 minutes until they even started talking to me, which was annoying because it's a cold and dark room and it's beautiful and sunny and warm outside. And so eventually during the whole course of the time I was there, I just went in and out, hung out outside in the sun, talked to the other guy. And anyways, so after a little while, I'm going to go outside. Fuck, I'm not sitting in here. This is uncomfortable. So I go outside and they don't really seem to care. So I'm outside and I'm talking to the guy who's working at the booth where you drive through or whatever. And we're just bullshitting a bit. And he's really friendly. And like I said, I'm really good at building rapport with people, especially in difficult situations. It's how I've been able, when I was a kid, avoided getting bullying too bad. I've always been a good negotiator, call it just a good communicator. And anyways, talking to this guy, I'm not kidding you guys. Within 5 minutes, this guy was telling me that COVID's a scam. It was insane during that period when they worked at the border. He was miserable. He told me that he has 3 kids. They're preppers. They live in the country up here. He says tons of other SEALs and all kinds of people from the US military and ex-cops. They're all coming up here and living up here because they're all preppers. And this guy is 100% on my values. 100%. We're talking about prepping. We're talking about off grid. We're talking about fucking, this guy says, he told me he went to the school board because his oldest daughter's senior year, 11, 12, whatever that is in the US. And they were doing this sex ed stuff that was all brainwashing propaganda. And he went and protested at the school board. And he said, my daughter is not going to this shit. Thank you very much. And he said he made a big stink of it. Well, I'm kind of maybe embellishing that a little bit, but he went and he basically showed that he was not going to do that, and he was not going to go along, and he pulled his daughter out of the thing. And he said to me, he said, but what really pissed me off after all of it? Because he said he talked to all the parents that his daughter knew and stuff, and they all kind of know each other. He said because like all the kids that didn't want to go in the sex education thing, and this is important. This is the greater context. You need the greater context as to where we're at, or where you guys are at in the United States, because in Canada, it isn't this bad. And I don't care what any American says. I've been traveling to the US for 20 fucking years. And I have friends internationally who come to Canada and do not get this like they do in the US. But anyways, he says the thing that pissed me off the most is that when I asked my daughter how many other kids pulled out from it, he said one. And he said he was livid. And so anyways, I immediately had a rapport with this guy, and we're talking about off-grid stuff because these guys inside are taking forever to do God knows what. And so this guy's all switched on. And I say to him, I said, hey, brother, I won't say his name. I don't want to put any of these guys at risk. But I said, hey, let me ask you this. Out of all the guys you work with and the people that you know, men and women in the service or whatever, how many share your stance on things? He says, sir, almost 100%. I said, you're telling me that these guys in here, they all share your viewpoint? He said, and at first you might say, oh, that's hopeful. That's great. That's great, because then there's hope. No. The opposite is true. The fact that good men and women will stand idly by and watch this shit and do nothing is actually more terrifying than them being brain ignorant, in my opinion. And I was joking to him. I said, well, you know what's going on down in El Paso there, right? You know what's going on. Michael Yon and all these journalists down in the Darien Gap, all these it's millions. I don't know the exact number. Nobody really does, but it's been millions that have crossed the border illegally from Mexico into the US since January. Millions. And they're processing them at night. They're giving them court orders with a 4-year court date. So come on in illegally, and then we'll give you a court date in 4 years that you'll never even have to show up for, and you can just come on in. Meanwhile, a guy like me who's trying to come down legally through the process gets grinded. And so anyways, I'm going back and forth with this guy for a while because I was there for 3 hours. I showed up there at 8 a.m. I just got home not too long ago. And so I'm bullshitting with this guy, and then they have me back in, and it's a little good cop, bad cop stuff with these guys usually. But it didn't take long until I had a good amount of rapport with most of the guys there. Like, they would say all this stuff off the record to me, like, look, man, you could just try again, but they'll probably just railroad you. I'm like, why? He says, I don't know. I said, can't I do like a FOIA or something like that? And he says, oh. He says, maybe. So anyways, another half hour goes by. I'm bullshitting with the guy outside again. I'm going back and forth. I'm taking a piss, doing whatever. And it's all chill. Like, they don't care that I go to my car. They didn't really care about anything. I come, he says, okay, hey, come inside. I want to give you something. He kind of says, he's like, here, check this out. And this was he didn't really, I don't know why he did this, but he says, okay, just so you know, if you want to do a FOIA, this is how you do it. And so he gave me this thing, this thick stack of paper. And he's like, this is how you do it through immigration. He says, but I'll tell you what, immigration is probably the most inefficient. this is not verbatim, but this is more or less what he said. He says, immigration in the US is probably the most inefficient institution that exists in the US. And I said, yeah, because all those migrants down in El Paso. And he was like, yeah, dude. He agreed with me and he laughed about it. And so anyway, so a bunch of this bullshit goes back and forth. Like I said, I'm there almost 3 hours. And so this is where it started to get interesting. So basically almost at the end of this, sort of call it in the crescendo of the whole thing. One buddy says, come on in, we're going to do your statement, your sworn statement. I say, okay. And this guy here, he's probably the dumbest motherfucker, sorry for the language, that works there. And I could kind of tell there was a bit of, people were kind of like, they didn't really like him. He's just this, it was so ridiculous. So anyways, he's like, okay, come on in for your sworn statement. He's like, okay, but hold on, because I got to type all this out. And so he's taking his sweet time. It's unbelievable. This guy was typing with one finger per hand the entire time. I'm not kidding you. And so he says, okay. And I have the affidavit. I'm not going to read it, but he goes into this thing. Okay, where were you going today? Okay, I was planning to go to Austin, Texas. Okay, where are you from? I told him where I'm from. Am I correct in that you were trying to enter the United States today? Yes. Okay. Yes. And then he says, and he asked me some other bullshit questions like, are you a Canadian citizen? You know, do you have residency in other places? Blah, blah, blah. Then he gets to this long one where he cites this article. Right. This is the article in the Immigration Act or whatever it is that he says I was in violation of. He says to me, were you aware that you are in violation of code this, subsection this, blah, 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 blah. And then because of that, you are not eligible for a hearing or a trial. And I said, at this point, I was just over it. I kind of wanted to just get out of there because at this point, I'm 2.5 hours in. But I was like, no, the legal guy in me who spends a lot of time researching the law, at least the Canadian law and international law, says, no, I don't understand that. Can you please explain to me how I don't have the right to a trial or a hearing? And then the other guy chimes in and he says, well, hold on a second. Because that was obviously a sensitive spot for some reason. And he was kind of basically telling me to not put that on the record. He says, if you tell us that you want a hearing or a trial, we have to detain you right now. And we're going to take you down to the nearest immigration compound or whatever the fuck it is. And we're going to hold you for at least 2 days. And maybe by early next week, you'll get a trial, but we're going to hold you. So I said, okay, sir. So just so I'm clear on this, you're telling me that in order to access the law, in order to access remedy in the law, you're giving me a choice of either we're going to hold you for days so that you can access the law and maybe we'll let you in, or you can say you understand and then you're going to just accept that we deny you entry. And so basically I'm like, well, sir, I don't feel like spending 2 days in prison to get a trial. I could go home. I'm a half-hour drive from home. I can go home and be back with my wife and children. I think I'm going to do that. And that was it, basically. And it was so funny. So we basically went through this statement, and I'm not kidding you guys. This goon, this guy, he was like the guy there that probably nobody liked. So, and then this is really funny to me too, is he's asking me, okay, we got to finish this sworn statement. And okay, so where were you heading again? I said, I'm heading down to the Exit and Builds Land Summit in Bastrop, Texas. He said, okay, and what company is that? And so he typed all that out, like one word letter at a time. I'm not kidding you, with like this, one word at a time. And he had really thick glasses on, and he was just like, oh, I couldn't tell if he was put on an act or what. It just seemed so, it was like a cartoon character. It's like that's your bureaucrat, right? That's your bureaucrat. But anyways, and then he said, okay, so what was the company that was putting this on? And I said, it's called the Live Free Academy. That's John Bush's company that's running the summit. He says, live free. And he's typing. Is that one word? I said, are you aware of a word called live free, sir? I don't know. I said, live free is 2 words, sir. It was mind-boggling. You missed Mr. Magoo. Thank you. Exactly. Classic. It was mind-boggling. So anyways, we get through this sworn affidavit BS. And now, at this point, I'm like 2 hours and 45 minutes in. And he says, okay, well, we got this done. You can sit down. Sergeant so-and-so is going to go get your passport. Just chill here for a bit. And so I'm just chilling. I'm just standing at the desk with my elbow on. And at this point, I had rapport with everybody there except this pencil pusher. And the other guy that I was talked to the most, who was outside, he came in because there was a bit of a lull. But there was cars going through every 5 minutes and just waving him through. No fucking problem. What are you guys going shopping in Vegas? Blah, blah, blah. People coming through. No problem. This guy comes back in because I told him, hey, this is my YouTube channel. You might be interested in my stuff. And he was, and he came in, he said, yeah, man, wow. He said, how many subscribers do you have? I said, I don't know. I stopped counting a while ago. I made 600,000, something like that. He says, wow. He's like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I want to look at your stuff, And he was just this guy was so nice and so awake. And he told me all kinds of stuff. I could go on for hours about this, but he said he'd been working in border customs since 9/11, and he said after 9/11 it was crazy. And he said he basically woke up after that point, and when COVID happened, he knew it was all bullshit. I didn't ask him if he took the shot. I didn't really feel it was necessary to go there and put him on the spot. But and so he comes back in, and we're all standing there, kind of bullshitting. Like, it was really now the sworn statement's done. Everything is now off the record, and now it's all just chill. And the one guy who was the other second guy who was quite nice. Actually, the 3 guys were quite nice. The one guy was the nicest, another guy was second nicest, and then the other guy became really nice at the end. And then we're all just standing around, and I said, okay, well, let me ask you guys this question. If I were to turn around right now and go back home and get John to cancel my flight and cancel my hotel, and then I go and rebook it with my money and pay for it and come back around, would that be better? He's like, yeah, it would be if it was at another time. He says, but if you do that now, I'm just telling you straight up what I would see. And honestly, they're not gonna let you in. But he's like, if you do this again next time, you have to pay for everything. So, but I'm just sitting here going, I literally, in my world of being a public speaker, and I've been doing this shit forever, speaking at conferences and traveling for consulting and all kinds of stuff. And I go to Mexico and get paid over the table, and they don't give a shit. Come on in, make money. I thought that's what the US was, right? Where's capitalism? Where's America, right? And he says, no, wouldn't bother. And I said, don't you guys think it's kind of funny? And I said this to all of them. All 4 of them were back in at this point. Isn't it kind of funny that this is going on here, subsection this, that, and the other? I just want to come in and speak to some people about freedom and fucking living off grid and finding nice properties for off grid. And down in El Paso, they're just flying over the border and they're getting a 4-year court order. Isn't that funny? And they all laughed their asses off. They were like, yeah. And then the one guy says, and most of them are just military age men. And then I said, yeah. And a lot of them are Chinese nationals. And he says, I know. And it's like, this is where we're at. This is where the United States of America is at. It's all pay to play. There is no, I mean, there's treaties, right? There's treaties. NAFTA is one of them. There's all this treaty shit. Come down to each other's countries, make money, spend money. Fuck, it's capitalism. That is no more in America. And I don't think that's a surprise to most people who are moderately awake to what's been going on. And this stuff's been going on for a long time, but it was something else, I tell you. It was something else. And it sucks, man, because I really wanted to come down there and deliver value for free. That's literally what I wanted to do. I'm that passionate about what I do and what I've put together with my Finding the Perfect Homestead Property course, that I'm willing to go and take my time, take 4 days away from my family. No, it's not about the jab, you guys. That's all over May 11th. Come down and even spend some of my own money, but spend 4 days away from my family to come down and talk to Americans about living off grid and all this for free. But because they paid for my hotel and my flight, according to subsection 2, blah, 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 blah. I showed the image a couple times. No good. No good. In capitalist America, you can't come down here for free and talk about something. It's insane. It's insane. And so the thing, again, the thing that was the most eye-opening with the whole experience, and I honestly, I've been through this many times. This was one of the shorter interactions that I've had. I've been anywhere, you know, the worst one I had was 9 hours in Seattle. Good cop, bad cop for 9 hours. Missed my whole trip. That was before COVID, but that was the last time I tried to go down to the US. And the thing that's so funny is they basically said that I couldn't come down for the same reason. But it's like, dude, I'm not being paid. He says, no, you are being paid because they paid for your flight and hotel. But I'm like, no, but they never paid me anything. They booked the flight. They paid for the hotel. I got nothing. I'm coming here for free. Not according to subsection, blah, 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 blah. If anybody's an immigration lawyer, you can look up this section here in the Immigration Act or whatever it is, 211 brackets lowercase a 7 brackets uppercase a brackets lowercase I brackets uppercase I. Okay, you can look up that article in the Immigration Act or whatever that statute is in the US, and maybe there's some remedy there. I don't know, but it's insane. Tell you what, though, I'm glad I didn't have to deal with this and fly. You know, like I said, we live fairly close to the US border. So it's actually, I should have been doing it this way for years, because I could have just saved myself so much fucking around. Because I'd been messed around connecting in Phoenix or Denver or wherever, Chicago. I'd been so screwed around so many places that I thought, well, this time I'm just going to drive, because that way if they screw me around, I'll just turn around and go home. And I'm home, you know, in 20 minutes, which was the case, it's nice. Like I can't lie that, you know, I'm pissed off and annoyed that the United States won't have me. At the same time, I'm pretty blessed to be home with my children and my wife, and I'm just going to go crush in the garden today. You know, it's 30 degrees outside. It's full summer weather, and you know, it could be worse, but yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I was really, really excited to meet a lot of you, because I know a lot of people messaged me and said, man, I'm coming to see you and coming to hang out with you. And I'm pissed, because I was really looking forward. The Texas boys were going to come down, and we were going to hang out. And man, I just wanted to, you know, crush some Texas burgers and hang out with some folks and talk about freedom. And nope. Not in the United States of America. They don't want a Canadian coming down, but we'll let millions of migrants through who cross illegally, MS-13, child sex trafficking, drug trafficking, no problem. And then we'll just we'll process you, and we'll give you a court order in 4 years that maybe you can show up to if you want to. And that's all good. But law-abiding capitalist coming down to teach people about off-grid, then nope, that's not good. Dan says, Curtis, why not fly to Kelowna and go from there? Because it would be the same thing. I'd fly to Seattle, and then I'd get fucked around in Seattle. It's the same thing. It's not about the crossing. It's about my passport I am red flagged on my passport. And until I go and pay lawyer, and look, the last time this happened to me, this was in February 2020. I was going down to do a workshop in Arizona. And it was the exact same thing, but it was 9 hours, and they held me in Seattle. And so that was sucked because I couldn't just turn around and walk away. Whereas here I could. And just drive home. But there I had to catch a flight, and it was a nightmare. But yeah, wow, what a joke. The US is gone. There's no, all the US is now, I mean, it's been this way since the 1871 Organic Act. Let's just be clear about that. The US, the United States, is a corporation registered in Washington, D.C., which is a city state. Washington, D.C. is its own sovereign entity. It is outside, it's a foreign invasion. The Washington, D.C., if you look at it on a map, it's its own country. It has its own constitution. The United States is a corporation registered in Washington, D.C., which is its own country. The United States of America is the land you all live on, but you are all registered in the United States, which is on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. There is no longer a United States of America. You are occupied by a foreign corporation called the United States. And that's how it's been for a long time. It's just that it just gets more and more insane. Like, it's just getting more and more insane. The fact that you can be a Mexican or a Chinese national and you can cross the border illegally at El Paso, walk right across. They'll process you and give you a court order in 4 years. And some of these court orders I've seen are even beyond that, 2030. And me wanting to come in and teach Americans about freedom and living on the fucking land, no good. And I want to come in legally, and I want to go through all the damn, give me your process. I'll sign it, whatever. I want to come in. I want to work for free in the United States of America because I believe that much in what I'm teaching and what people like John Bush and Derek Brose and Michael Reynolds and Jeff Lawton and Patrick Wood and all these great people. I believe so much in what this conference has to stand with is that I will work for free and I'll come to the United States for free. And no, they can't even pay your hotel or your flight. So the only way I could have gone in is if I paid for all of that myself. And he said, you better bring proof. He said, all the statements, everything. He's like, if you want to come in again, you better have all that in order. And again, I said to him, well, what if I just went home now? Because like I gave myself enough time. I could probably, if you're telling me that there's a chance, I'll go home and I'll pay for the fucking flight. I would be willing to pay for the flight and pay for the hotel on my own dollar. I would have been willing to do that, knowing what I know now. But I didn't know this. How could I? Have you read the immigration code? You know, are you up to date with subsection blah, 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 blah? Do you know this, sir? No, I don't. I thought Canada had a treaty with the United States and we could just come in. I'm not being paid, but no, under that section, I am being paid. And so, okay, I can go and apply for a business visa. And when this happened to me in 2020, I actually was going to do that because up until that point, I was making the lion's share of my income from public speaking, doing those 5-day workshops in the US on farms and whatnot. And I was willing to go, at the time I had some lawyers in Toronto that were going to help me. So I had to fly to Toronto and spend 48 hours there, spend tens of thousands of dollars on this shit and get a proper, I think they said, the one guy said to me, he said, the visa you need to get is a B1 visa because you're technically doing business. And it's like, okay, I'm not doing business, but okay. And he said, if you do that, then, you know, next time you want to try it, you know, maybe, but he said, be prepared. Cause he said, and this is one of the guys that I had fairly good rapport with. He said, be prepared, man. He's like, you're going to spend at minimum. He said, your best case scenario, every time you come across the border is at least a half an hour. He said, give yourself half a day, which is actually what I did. I gave myself 4 hours of buffer. So I could have afforded being dicked around for, well, no, not quite. 3 hours, call it. I afforded myself 3 hours to be dicked around and then knowing that that was going to happen to some degree, but I'm being totally transparent. I even had a letter from John saying, hey, he's not being paid. We did pay for his hotel and flight though, but that's not good enough. So, it's, Yeah, it's insane. The US, I'm not in, like, I've traveled to a number of countries. I've been a speaker in Australia, New Zealand. I've been to 42 US states. I've been to Sweden. I've been up and down Mexico, many different provinces, and I've done to go to those places. I have been there as a speaker, paid for years, and only in the US is that an issue. And so all these Americans who think the US is some great free country, and you guys, and I'm not shitting on anybody here because I know most people here probably get this, but I get these sort of, call them mainstream conservatives or mainstream Republicans, who chime in on things for me, and they're, oh, Canada, oh, you guys are so socialist, you guys are so communist. In my world traveling, there is no more of an anti-capitalist, pro-communist country than the United States. It is the bastion of slavery. It is the bastion of ignorance, and it's insane. And I hope more people wake up, because the thing that was the most troubling to me with all of that is I talked to all these guys, mostly the one guy, but when I asked him, I said, how many of your coworkers share your viewpoint? He says, almost 100%. So you're telling me that you guys all know 9/11, COVID, all the BS, Benghazi, the Mexican border, flooding them in, child sex trafficking. We talked about it all. This one guy, we literally went no holds barred. At first he was hesitant. He's like, well, look, they're recording me and I can only say so much. But I hit a couple soft spots with him and he just opened up. And it means that being awake doesn't mean shit. It doesn't mean anything. You're awake, who cares? Oh, you know Joe Biden's a puppet? Who cares? You think COVID was a scam? Who cares? The question is, what did you do about it? That's all that matters. That's all that matters, is what did you do about it? And most people will tell you nothing. They did nothing about it. And so that's why I think America is toast, because good men and women will not stand up. Just even like how the one border guard told me. He's like, I went to the parent teacher interview thing and told him I don't want drag queen story time at the children's library. And he told me only one other parent pulled their kids out. And he said all the other parents in conversations privately were all on board, thought it was ridiculous, yet 99% of them subjected their children to absolute communist brainwashing. So that's it. It's insane. When I went to New Zealand, Australia, Sweden, Mexico, always is up front. I'm going down to a teacher workshop. It's just, but in the US, no, absolutely. It's home of the fees. No, what is it? Land of the fees, home of the slaves. It's crazy because I love Americans. I love Americana. I love all of that shit. I love Texas culture. That's why I was just so stoked to go down and hang out and see that "Don't Tread on Me" flag that you see everywhere down there, and see that mentality. But this is a message too for people coming to this conference, and I'm going to be there. I'm still speaking. I'm going to share with you guys some really good content. And I spent a lot of time over the last number of weeks putting this stuff together because I really want to deliver value and help people. And it's not about the money. It's about the message. It's about the tools. It's about teaching people how to get free. And that's what John Bush is doing at the summit, and all these great speakers. And not in America, man. It is. It's crazy. And I've said this. I said this to John. John Bush did an interview with me last week, and he says to me, what's it like up there in Canada? Because you guys got Trudeau doing this, that, and the other. And I said, and this is the analogy I'm going to reiterate because I think it's an important point to make. If you listen to the media and you listen to the alternative media, especially, you listen to Glenn Beck, kind of mainstream, whatever, or you listen to Alex Jones, or you listen to even like Mike Adams, or listen to my buddy Richard Grove, or Jay Dyer, and these guys, and you listen to stuff they'll talk about Canada, and if it comes up, you'd think that if you were in the US that Canada is this fascist dictatorship. But the thing that's very different than Canada and in the US is that Canada just doesn't have the balls. All the laws are just as ridiculous in the US as they are in Canada. And of course, it varies state to state, just as if it does vary from province to province up here. Canada's different than the US, but similar in some ways. And it's all the same shit. And at the same time, in Canada, they won't kick your door down for not filing a tax return. In some cases, they might if you ignored it for years and years and years. But in the US, I know farmers personally in the United States that have had guns drawn on them for selling raw milk, or selling a certain product that wasn't a certain code under the USDA. The US will kick the shit out of you for minor infractions of a legal code, opposed to you doing something that's wrong. Because what's illegal and what's wrong are two different things, as most of you should understand. But Canada, there's so much more freedom here. It's unbelievable. Just in that, yeah, the codes and the rhetoric and the politics is all retarded. It's all BS. In fact, I would make the case that Joe Biden is worse than Trudeau. Trudeau is a complete puppet, a complete gamma male, obnoxious male feminist. But Joe Biden is literally a sock puppet. Like, and I don't mean to have this pissing contest of who's more free and who's less free and how ridiculous is it. It's all insane. It's all New World Order. It's all nuts. But the thing that the US has that Canada doesn't is you have massive military, violent apparatus that will kick the shit out of you for an infraction. In Canada, when the state comes down on you, it's because you probably murdered somebody. And I know all kinds of stories, and you can this, that, and the other go back. Oh, I know a guy, this, that. Sure. There's nuance everywhere. But I've been doing business in the United States for years. And I've been paying taxes in the United States for years. And I can tell you, some states are ridiculous. Like I used to have a business in California, and the taxes we paid were out of this world. There's no province in Canada where you pay even close to what you pay in California. Not even close. But yeah, man, it's just, what are the gun laws in Canada? They're not that much different than the US. People have guns up here. You can get handguns up here. You have to have a license just like you do in the US, but it's not that much different. People just believe everything they hear in the media. But it's not that it's not that much different. It really isn't. The legal system is similar. It's just that it's all, I don't know. It's just I live up here with, I've never lived more free in my life than where we are now. But that's not because of the country I'm in. That's because of the place I'm in. I'm in a rural area, and people are conservative out here. People are Christian out here. People have different values in the country. And that's really what it comes down to. It's not about US or Canada or the nation state, the corporate nation state, that you have a citizenship. It's about the technical, physical land that you're on and where you are. That's what it is. And yeah, it's absolutely insane. And you know what? Like, it's just the thing that's crazy about that act, or that article that they said, oh, because of this and this and this. I know, and I'm not going to name names because I don't want to inform on people, but I literally know hundreds of people in my network, because I'm an international guy. I've been doing this for a long time. Hundreds of people in my network that go across the United States to speak at conferences all the time and never have those issues ever. It was weird too, because and I was telling the border guys this, I was like, once we had rapport and it was all this kind of off the record after my sworn statement, and we're just sitting there bullshitting. And I said, it's crazy, because there was a time back in, it was like 2019 or something like that. Me and my wife and my daughter were coming across, and dude, Friendly Ghost, you're fucking annoying. I'm banning you. You're such a gamma male. Hide this user from your out. I've been doing this forever. Oh yeah, so no, we go down and we're crossing, and we had some strawberries in our cooler that we forgot to declare. And up until that point, this is 2019, I'd been going to the US literally 2 to 4 times a month for years, probably 6 years prior to that, go all the time, consulting, public speaking, whatever it was, you name it. And this one time they railroaded us with my wife, and it was traumatizing my wife. She'd never seen anything like that, because she just couldn't believe how insane they were. And ever since then, I'd been red flagged, and every time I went across, I got really screwed around. And I really only got across at that point maybe 4 more times, to a point where it cascaded, and it was just like, you're not coming through at all anymore. It's just crazy, because the face these guys make, every time they scan my passport, they kind of go, and I'm like, what the? I want to see what you're looking at there. And so I'm probably going to file this FOIA and see what the hell's on my file. Yeah, it's crazy. No, I'm doing the Zoom call, guys. I'm there. You're going to get a crushing presentation. So it's going to be awesome. It's just the thing you're not going to get is you're not going to be able to bullshit with me and, have a beer and go to the pub or something and go have a burger. That's the thing that I was looking forward to the most. Hanging out with Jack Spirko. I talked to Jack last night. He wanted to have me for dinner tonight, but I was going to be arriving late anyway, so it wouldn't have worked out for that night. But there was a big dinner planned on Saturday, a big social event. Super stoked for that. I'm a social guy. I'm approachable. I like meeting people. I like shaking hands. I like hearing people's stories, and that's really what I was looking forward to the most, was just hanging out with a bunch of American friends and just shooting the shit and having a nice time and talking about freedom and getting stoked, and hopefully, and pulling out some hope for the world. And don't get me wrong, this thing doesn't really faze me. Like I said, I'm glad to be at home, because I'm not stuck in an airport in Seattle for 9 hours like I was last time. I'm at home now. It's all over. And so I can't complain. I love it up here. And Nancy says, do the FOIA. I will do the FOIA. At the same time, I got a lot of other things on my list of priorities above a fucking FOIA, with immigration, border services in the United States. Like I got to do a big push in the garden here. I just got a new electric pipe BCS company out of Australia called Curly's Ag. Curly sent me the full kit. I've got this. It's like a BCS, but better. And so it's basically a 2-wheel tractor system. It's fully electric, has a huge 6 kilowatt hour battery that you can change over. And I got a flail mower. I got a power harrow for it. I got a ride-on mower for it. I got a flame weeder for it. I've got, it's insane. What else was there? I got a snow blade, an articulating snow blade. You can ride this thing. You can push it. It's absolutely insane. So that's what I'm going to be playing with today. So, I wish I could be hanging out with the Texas boys and Jack Spirko and John Bush and his wife. But I'm going to be crushing it in the garden. And so, at the end of the day, I'm not butthurt about this, but I just thought I would share with you guys the story so you get the story. And because when I do these talks, they're scheduled, and so I'm going to come in. I might say a few words, a few minutes on this, and then I'm going to deliver a wicked talk that's going to deliver a massive amount of value. And I've got 2 talks, and I'm going to do those either way. And that's what I was kind of like. I was joking with the guy. I was like, because he said to me, here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. He said, okay, under that article, if the conference is making money, it's for profit, and then this is the funny one. This is just so ridiculous. The logic is beyond measure. But he says, if you were coming down to speak at a non-for-profit conference that was a US, what do they call 503 or whatever, a registered nonprofit, whatever. And they were a registered nonprofit, and they were paying for your hotel and and flight, that would have been fine. But the fact that it's a for-profit event and they're paying for my hotel and flight, that is the problem. And I said to him, and this is all again off the record at the end, because I didn't want to put this on the sworn statement. Otherwise, they would have had to book me in order to give me remedy. And so I said, so you're telling me in the United States of America, the land of capitalism and freedom, so capitalism and freedom, that a guy in the US can't make money off a conference, otherwise he can't bring in international speakers without a fucking business visa? It's just like, there's no logic. There's no logic to it whatsoever. Hey, thanks for that, Michael. I appreciate you saying that, brother. Owen and Jack, good friends of mine, and I wish more than ever I could be down hanging out with bros, and family guys too. I don't party. I don't go down to these things and get fucking wasted. I go out and hang out with people, and I hang out with salt of the earth people, and just want to share those values that I thought America had. But it's just so crazy how all those border guys are, except the one, he was probably just a total pencil pusher, mindless zombie. But the other guys, they're all on the same page. They're all awake, at least now, and they're just going along with the shit. And that's the thing, is how far is it going to go in the United States? Because right now in El Paso, they're just floodgates. Just come on, come one, all, come one, come all. Criminal MS-13, Chinese communist operative, no problem. Come on in. And here's a piece of paper that says in 4 years you got to come to a court date, but you can go and do whatever you want in the United States until that date. They'll give that to those people, and they won't let a guy like me come in and do a talk for free to my fellow Americans. It's absolutely insane. So anyways, bro, I'll build you a tiny house in Texas. Let's go. Hey, you know what? I've been thinking about buying a place in Texas, to be honest. Hey, Kevin Lassard, brother. Good to see you. I love Texas, man. Like I've learned so much about real estate over the last year, and especially the last 3-4 months, been building this course and looking at stuff. Like, literally thought about buying a piece of property in Texas and then just setting up something and building up a off-grid homestead, maybe flipping it, But at this point, do I want to try coming down into the United States? I have about 1,000 other things that I have to do that are unfortunately more important than applying for a FOIA and all this stuff. And sure, I am curious. At the same time, though, the growing season is here. My guys right now got the cap on the ICF house crushing. We're ready for a new pour. Early next week, we're pouring it. Then the floor joists are going on. We're crushing. So I got 100 other things. I got to work on my driveway again. I got some rain coming, which will be nice. I can do some good road work then. I'm going to run Curly's machine here. It's called the Cyber Clydesdale. This thing is so badass, you guys. You'll see it in some videos coming up, but this thing is insane. It's like a BCS, but it's electric, totally quiet. And I can run on one charge of this battery. I can flail mow 900 lineal feet of 30-inch bed on one charge. That's pretty sweet. And I don't have 900 feet to flail mow. So, it's, yeah, it's crazy. I'm just looking at your guys' chat here. Yeah, it's nuts. There is a maximum law starting that in order for the law to be broken, there has to be intent. Exactly. You're right. That is equity. But see, that's the thing. I tried to get to the bottom of that when I said to the guy, because I know equity, and I know equity is universal in law, at least in Western law, and especially the US and Canada. And when he said to me on this sworn statement that he was writing down with one letter at a time, he says, all right, do you understand that under subsection this and blah, 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 you are in violation and therefore are not entitled to a hearing or a trial? And I said, no, I don't understand that. Can you explain that to me? Because I know there's remedy in this. And what do I have to do to get the remedy? That's basically what I'm asking, right? And he says, whoa, buddy. He says, are you on the record telling me that you don't understand? And this is another guy interjecting with this, which they're doing all kinds of legal stuff that they're not supposed to do. They're not supposed to do that. Once the statement starts, there's sort of all this framework on how it's supposed to go. But anyways, because he was trying to help me. He's like, no, buddy, do not put on the record that you don't understand that. Because if you say that, then I'm going to have to arrest you and detain you, take you to the immigration place, and you'll wait at very minimum 48 hours, and you might get a trial in a week. That's what he said to me. I said, okay, I get this is off the record. Okay, but just let me understand what you're saying. You're saying that I can't access remedy unless I'm prepared to spend 2 days in prison, essentially. He said, that is correct. So there's your equity in the US. There's your equity in the US. Is, yeah, you can get your remedy. You get your remedy, but we're going to make your life miserable for a few days. Meanwhile, we'll let them come one all across at El Paso, no problem. MS-13, child sex trafficker, drug dealer, pimp, Chinese foreign invader, national. Fuck, come on in. Here's a court order in 4 years. See you later. Like, what the hell? Like, where there is no, it's like we are in, it's not just loony land because of drag queen story time. It's not just loony land because of fake climate change / geoengineering. It's not just loony land because of the media telling you to freak out about everything Donald Trump says or Elon Musk says. It's none of that. It's that under the letter of the law, you cannot get remedy without massive discomfort to yourself. Or, if you're really rich, you can just pay to play, right? And you can just, be like the Clintons and just have a trust and just say, I'm not getting paid $2 million for this public speaking event. It's going to my trust. Maybe I should be doing that. Hey, I'm coming down in trust. I don't need a visa. I'm not getting paid. My foundation paid for the whole thing, like it's just absolutely ridiculous. And so, yeah, I mean, everybody's got stories about Canada and the US, but I don't know. I've spent so much time in the United States. The vast majority of my working career as a public speaker and consultant has been in the United States. The vast majority of it. Like I said, I've been to 42 US states. I've been to almost all the continental United States and done events and stuff like this for years. Never been a problem. Been brought in by major universities. Boston University, I used to speak at 3-4 years in a row. Never an issue. It's just madness. Mind Bank says Chris Hedges. I wonder how Chris Hedges, he's one of the kind of last liberal guys that I liked, but I wouldn't be surprised if he got all woke after the vaccine. I wonder, who are the last journal, like some of the, I like Glenn Greenwald, liberal journalist. I like him. I used to like Chris Hedges, but I wonder if he got woke because he started, Noam Chomsky. I used to read Noam Chomsky's books when I was a teenager. He's all woke now. It's like it's just the thing that's so sad about America falling is that, it's kind of like we're all on our own now because, and no shit, Curtis, tell me something I don't know. Of course we're all on our own. That's the reality of it. But, it does kind of sink in when, as a kid like me, a Canadian, we're so close to the United States that in a way we all grew up as Americans because American culture was so dominant in like Canadiana is Americana for the most part. And, we all grew up with that. America is opportunity. And it still is because like my businesses, when they don't involve me, I've had 3 US businesses. I've owned 3 US businesses. And, doing businesses in the United States is all fine and gravy when you're not coming down. Amy Goodman on Democracy Now! Are you kidding me? I met her at an airport in Seattle a number of years. Amy Goodman's a complete shill, and she toted the narrative of big pharma, and she's an absolute disgrace. I used to love Amy Goodman. She's an absolute disgrace. Jimmy Dore, yeah, he's kind of woken up, but yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but it's just. Okay, so I'm back. It's the sort of the cultural, the realization is quite heavy in the sense, because I think it's easy to take it for granted when you turn on the news and you see this happens to somebody, the US State Department does this, the USDA does that and violates people's rights, blah, blah, blah. You hear all these like terrible things that the government's doing, or Benghazi or whatever it is. But the kind of the sinking feeling that when you talk to some of the people in uniform, and I talk to a lot of people in uniform because like I said, I've always had a rapport with people, and I'm good at talking to people. I'm good at breaking down barriers and just getting to the heart of people. And it's the sinking feeling that most Americans call it, know that the US is fucked, yet not even a measurable percentage of them are willing to do anything about it. That's the thing that is kind of troubling in a way. Texas Boy says, you're right, it saddens you in Canada as it saddens and scares us here in the US. And we see your freedoms trampled on. It's shocking when we see things happen in Canada too. But the thing is, it's everywhere. I think it is a logical fallacy to play this game of nationalism anymore. That's why I think people who are jumping on the Trump train again, you're fucking delusional. I'm sorry. You're out of your mind. There's no political figure that's going to save you from this. RFK, Donald Trump. There's the deep state, and the system is so entrenched, and so many people are so brainwashed that there's the only hope is the collapse. And in a way, I kind of take hope in this because I'm not as affected. I don't live in Chicago. I don't live in DC. I don't live in Atlanta. I don't live in San Francisco. I live in the country where it's super conservative. Christian and white, I can say, yeah, and I'm a prepper. We can survive for years up here. So I can literally sit there and go, yeah, let it burn. Because I don't see any other remedy. I just don't see how anybody's going to turn the ship around. Trump? Are you kidding me? Trump? Oh, now the rhetoric is all, I'm going to do this, that, and the other. Whereas when the whole COVID scam started, he was just pushing right along with all this and still thinks the vaccine is the greatest achievement, this, that, and the other. Like, people are still, you're falling for this again, Americans? Seriously? You're falling for this again? And it's like, I don't know what to tell you anymore. And then again, that's why I was so excited to come down to this conference, because this conference, the Exit and Build Land Summit, is exactly that. It's exactly the kind of people that get it. That's why they're there. That's why they're going, is because they know they have to exit and build, that they have to do it. There's no other solution. You're not going to elect a politiciian that is going to change that. If you do, they'll do what they do to MTG or Matt Gaetz or whatever, even Pierre Poilievre. Not to say that I know what's going on inside of their heads, but those people say some shit that's true. And look what the media does to them. Like, and that's the thing that's even crazier now, is that now the floodgates are off, and it's not just the deep state that's going to railroad you at the border or whatever. It's the entire media industrial complex, including social media, that's going to do that to you. And so the way I see it is, who cares about any of it? Get off. That's why I'm not on social media, guys. Like, I don't sit there on Twitter, and even though it's apparently this freedom bastion now, I'm not sitting there going, fucking arguing with people pointlessly about something that has no effect. And the fact that you have a different opinion than me has any effect on my life whatsoever. Like, social media is such a waste of time. And I think, again, people at the Exit and Build Summit, John Bush, people know this stuff that might use it for a business or something here and there. But to be spending any time at this point, at this juncture, with where we're at in this totalitarian tiptoe, as David Icke puts it, to spend any time trying to convince people that are brainwashed that 2 + 2 is 4 is pointless. It's an absolute exercise in futility, because there's so many people that are already awake. And that is the thing that's the most troubling, is, as I said, as that border guard said to me and revealed to me, that almost 100%, according to his words, almost 100% of his coworkers are on the same page. Yet they're all going to work and doing this shit day in and day out. Meanwhile, Mexican drug cartels, Chinese nationals, and Communist Party operatives are crossing the United States border at El Paso willy-nilly. And they want to grind me for an infraction of a subsection of an article that, how the hell would anybody know that? I'm not getting paid. In my lexicon, and everybody else I know, your lexicon is, am I getting paid? Am I getting money? No, I'm not getting money. They paid for a hotel and a flight. But that is the problem, because that conference is making money, and then they're paying for your hotel and accommodation. That means you're being remunerated. Okay, I get it. Yeah, okay, I understand that. And then El Paso. Okay. Or if it was a nonprofit, if John Bush had a nonprofit, a US 50, what is it? US 503C, whatever those official nonprofits are, then it would have been fine. So if John had a nonprofit, I could have come across. But because he was making some money on the deal. In America, you can't make any money, man. If you're making money off Curtis Stone coming down to speak at, 503, 501c3, thank you. Curtis Stone's coming down to talk and you're going to make money as an American. No way, man. He's not coming down, but he can call in on Zoom and do the event, and that's okay. But we don't want that guy down here because he's helping you make money. It's just the logic is insufferable. Matthew, thank you. Wait with their fingers crossed while it's just, yeah, it's so insane. It's so insane. And yeah, I don't know what to say anymore. You know, that's why I'm in the country. That's why I'm out here. So I don't have to deal with this. Yeah, now Twitter's got a WEF CEO. Who cares? That's why I can't say I saw that coming. I didn't see that coming. I didn't even care. But I know all these people that jumped back on Twitter when it became a gravy train. I didn't go. I don't fucking care. What am I going to do? Wake people up? Everybody who's awake is already awake. Being awake doesn't mean shit. It's what are you doing? Because you tell me you're awake and you work at the US State Department, or you're awake and you're a US Customs agent, or you're awake and you work inside the system. You're a coward. You're a coward to be wearing a uniform of a foreign corporation operating in the United States of America called Washington, D.C., to work for a foreign corporation. The whole thing is treason. The whole thing is treason. The whole inception of the United States corporation registered in Washington, D.C. on Pennsylvania Avenue is treason. It's completely treasonous. The original inception of the Constitution is an absolute beautiful, in my opinion, divine document. And it's gone. It doesn't exist. You can't get remedy through that. They can just railroad you through the courts. Look what they do to all these people. They'll just bleed you to death in the courts. It's absolutely insane. One Dog Farm says, could you pay for your own ticket and just fly down there today? I asked him that specifically. You must have missed the first part of this. No. In 6 months, yes. Yeah. But to make it for this conference tomorrow, no. Because that's what I said. I said, well, if the issue is that he's paid for my ticket, I'll just get them to refund the ticket and I'll pay it right now. I'll go and pay it. And I said, if I came back later today or tomorrow morning, because I mean, even if I left tomorrow morning, I could still make it for my talk, because my talk was going to be at 5:30 my time. It's, I think, yeah, or maybe 5:30 Texas time. But he said no, because this file is so hot, they're just going to have too many questions for you. So he said you won't make it. He just said, you know, if you want to try again at another conference at another time, maybe. But I'm like, at this point, I don't even care. I just don't even care. I've got it so good up on my homestead. My kids are out running around naked in the garden. You know, it's paradise up here. And yeah, it's absolutely, it's insane. So that's the story, folks. That's the full story. Yeah, private plane. I doubt it. You got $30,000 for me for take to private jet? No, it's just like, at the end of the day, people can hear my message online, you know, and I tell you what, like, to be totally honest with you guys, and I'm always honest. That's a stupid saying. Better, I should say, to be totally transparent with you and to kind of give you an insight as to where I'm at in my mind with my life, my family, where I guess, you know, I'm going with all this is I just want to disappear. Like I like making YouTube videos. Like I'm passionate about what I do. And I love sharing it with people. But to be honest, the whole online thing gets old. And I'm gonna deliver a great talk tomorrow, right? And I'm gonna deliver a great workshop on Sunday on Zoom. But being there with the people is the thing that energizes me. And it's going down, you know, like I used to go I used to go down to Tennessee a lot, working with Ray Tyler down there. And as a Canadian, we grew up with Americana and all this, but we always have this kind of propaganda that's like, oh, well, Americans, they're gun-toting rednecks, they're ignorant, they're dumb, kind of that's the stereotype that we get in Canada about Americans. And you guys get the stereotype that, Canadians say rough and and live in igloos and are a bunch of pushovers and overly polite. But the stereotype we got is that Americans are all rednecks and it's all hillbillies down there and all this. And I honestly, I subconsciously believed that for many years. And when I went on my bike tour down in the US, that kind of changed my perspective. That was in 2008. I rode my bike down to Mexico through the whole US and met, hundreds of people that just totally were inspiring. And then I started later in my career, I started going down to San Francisco, and I didn't really like it that much there. I was still liberal at that point, but I just didn't like it. I just didn't like the junkies and stuff. But then I started getting invited down to Tennessee, hanging out with Ray Tyler and his family and meeting real salt of the earth Christian Americans. And I just remember having a massive cognitive dissonance because it took me many years to come to where I am today. I'm a de facto anarchist in the sense that I don't believe in the state philosophically, but I can see the utility of it in some ways. I can get my head around that. But I believe in freedom. I'm an agorist, I would have never come to my views if it weren't for some of the Americans that I met down in there. And some people that I was a Black American that turned me on to Thomas Sowell and Walter Williams, a Black American. And because he used to believe all this stuff. Oh my God, slavery, all this stuff. It's so racist down in the US, all this bullshit, right? But then you go down there and you're like, man, these are the nicest people ever. The nicest people ever. Arkansas, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Texas, fucking Missouri, man. Even Pennsylvania. The working class Americans that I've gotten to know over the years in the workshops that I've done are some of the best people I ever met in my life. And how tragic is it that, because these days I only go on my own eyes. Well, what can I see with my own eyes? I don't trust anything anymore, except my own eyes. But that was my experience. I go down to the US and, people are so nice. What is that? People help you out. I remember one time I was in Arkansas and my wife and I got totally dicked around on a flight. My wife and daughter when she was a baby. And it was a storm in Chicago. We connected in Chicago. We couldn't get to Tennessee, so I had to fly to Arkansas, Big Rock, Arkansas, and then drive to Tennessee. But I remember when we landed on the plane and we were disorientated because we were exhausted. We'd been, messed around for 6-7 hours. We get to Arkansas, our bags are missing. It's just a total nightmare. My wife's pissed off. Baby's crying. This guy comes up to us and he worked at the airport, and this is in Big Rock, Arkansas. He said, "Hey, how you guys doing today? Can I help you guys? Is there anything I can do to help you guys? You look like you're some, a black guy from Arkansas, deep accent, was so fucking nice, was so nice, so helpful, dropped everything he was doing to help us. Okay, I know a guy who can help you with your bag quicker because there's a lineup over here. We're gonna go to this part of the airport, talk to this guy, blah, 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 blah. Guy went out of his way. That's Americana. That is Americana. But that's gone. Because if good people like that won't stand up and call a spade, what good is it? But that's what I'm talking about. And that's what I'm saying. I almost feel like shedding a tear right now, to be honest. And I have a tendency to do that. I get emotional sometimes when I talk about an issue that's really important to me. And again, I don't care that I'm not able to go to the conference because I can Zoom call it in, right? Like I care, but I don't care. And that's not what I'm disappointed about. I'm disappointed in the fact that the America that I grew up idolizing is gone. And it really takes it takes a hammering to get it into your head, because like I could have had this conversation with you years ago and I would have said the same thing, because I've experienced the same thing for years. But it's just, it really, the fact, like, if I would have talked to those guys down there and they would have all been just brainwashed zombies, didn't want to talk to me, didn't give a shit, I probably wouldn't even be doing this Zoom call. I'd just be like, yeah, whatever. Because I wouldn't find anything significant about that experience. But the fact that the guy, we were on the same page, off grid, preppers, took his little girl out of fucking LGBT propaganda hour, all this stuff. And then he tells me that most of his staff are 100% on the same page. And these guys know that there's Mexicans flying across, like just running across the border willy-nilly, over millions since January. Yet here they are grinding me, when they totally had the authority to just wave me through. That guy, the first guy, he made a decision to look at this because there was a red flag on there. He made a decision. He could have just said, whatever, go across this time. They've done that to me many times, dozens of times. Oh, well, I don't know if that's okay, but we'll let you cross this time. I literally heard that most times that I crossed the United States. That's literally what it was. Because it was always kind of nebulous, right? Like, oh, well, you're this and that. And my name, I didn't have as big of a name then. That's probably probably realistically what it comes down to, is I have a bigger name. And but I don't know. I mean, maybe once I do this FOIA and I go through this whole BS, I'll get an answer. But then what am I going to do with it? Because do I really care? Like, do I really want to go to the US? And like I was saying earlier, I've been tempted with all this real estate research I've done for the last number of months. I've been tempted to buy a property in Texas because I could do that. And I thought, because you can buy a property in Texas. I've seen good acreages for $200,000, $300,000. I could do that, But then every time I want to go down there, do I want to get railroaded and deal with all that shit? I could go tomorrow and buy a place in the US. You can do that. Canadians can do that. I know a dozen Canadians that live in this area right across the border that come up here all the time. And they're Canadians that just live in the US because it's cheaper. And then they just come up here for whatever. But do I want to deal with this? No, not really. Not really. Who's the drunk guy in the chat? Rat him out. I'll delete him. I'm so annoyed with you. You guys, these gamma males coming here. Shut the fuck up. Shut up. You're not going to change the world in a chat, guys. Like, you're not gonna teach me a lesson on how stupid I am in the chat. Yeah, I wonder. No, I can't go tomorrow. I can't go. And frankly, I think I'm done at this point. I mean, the last time was so traumatizing and so just physically, like 9 hours with border agents stuck in Seattle, knowing that I'm missing the workshop that I'm supposed to be teaching, that a lot of people went out of their way and paid a lot of money to come and hear me talk about farming. And that was that time 3 years ago. And that was demoralizing. That was very difficult because, I'm in the Seattle airport. This is right at the beginning of COVID too. There was all these Chinese people with masks there. It was a crazy experience, crazy story, maybe for another time. But they move me around different rooms. 1 minute you're talking to this guy. 1 minute you're talking to this girl. They do this good cop, bad cop thing. It's absolutely mind numbing. And that was 9 hours. This was 3 hours. So it wasn't as bad, but yeah, man, it just sucks. Like, coming to Greece, no. Frankly, I have zero interest in going to Europe. I'm done with it. I was kind of stoked to, do this trip a little bit different, drive part of the way and then have a lot less flights. Because if you want to fly from Canada, customs is sometimes in Calgary, or customs is whatever the closest flight you have in the US. And it sucks getting derailed and then missing a flight. And then now you're just stuck somewhere that you can't get anywhere. And that was the toughest one when I had that 9-hour mess around in Seattle 3 years ago. It was just so exhausting. 9 hours, just I'm stuck in limbo. Like, and I'm so far from home that I can't just get up and leave. Whereas at least today I could just get up and leave. And I said to the guys many times, I said, are you detaining me? He says, no, we're not detaining you. I said, so technically under law, I could just walk right out this door, get in my truck and go. And he says, yeah, but I'm going to keep your passport. And so, okay, I want my passport back. I was tempted just to say, keep it, fuck it. Go back to Canada. This is ridiculous. I don't know if I'm going to need a passport anymore because, all these, to be honest, I kind of had a semi-sleepless night the other night, just thinking how much I have on the line when I travel. And that's why it was such a big deal for me to travel, is that I have a beautiful wife and 2 beautiful children that I love with all of my heart. And every time I have to walk and leave my family, a bit of my heart drops. It's hard. It's exciting, but it was hard. Getting in the truck this morning to drive down to the border, and I'm driving on my driveway and I'm thinking, there's always a chance that I just could never see my family again. And that is a tough thing to think about. But all these pilots that took the shot, all these affirmative action hires in the airlines, are the airlines even that safe anymore? All these reactions happening, people dropping dead, do I even want to take that risk? I was willing to. And part of me was somewhat relieved, thinking, oh, you know what? I can just go back to my family and I know I'm going to be with my family. And so that's worth more than anything. And so at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, I'll call it in. I'll Zoom call it in, but yeah, I was really stoked to hang out with the Texas boys and Jack and Michael Reynolds and John Bush and all you guys. And yeah, I'm sorry, man. It's the US doesn't like, freedom fighters. You got to be a Chinese communist operative or an MS-13 member in order to get in these days. Maybe I'd come in drag next time and say I'm going down to do drag queen pedo hour at the library across the border here, and roll out the red carpet for this guy. It's just, yeah, soon have diversity literally falling out of the sky. I wouldn't be surprised, when you think about how it goes. It's so backwards. The whole thing is just so insane. So yeah, I think my days in the US are done, really. I mean, because there's no way that's gonna change with the sort of Biden border invasion, as they're calling it. There's no way that immigration law is going to change. And do I feel like flying to Vancouver or Toronto to go see some top immigration lawyer, pay tens of thousands of dollars to get my B1 visa, wait 6 months to go through some bullshit process, talk to all these annoying bureaucrats and lawyers? Do I really feel like doing that so that I can come in into the US? Not really. I can do it remotely, but as I was kind of alluding to earlier, I'm kind of just stoked to just disappear, to be honest. I'm mostly set up, after this year on my homestead, we'll be ready for droughts, fires, political complete collapse, economic collapse. We're preppers. We're hardcore, how much we've gotten done here in the last couple of years has been absolutely insane. And so I just kind of want to, again, I'm passionate about the information. I want to help people. I want people to learn this stuff so that they can get to where I am. or somewhere other variation of it. But not if I have to bend over and do bullshit just so I can come and do that for free. Because technically having somebody pay for your flight and your hotel is considered getting compensated. So it's just, oh wow, what's that? Oh, look at this cocktail my wife made me. Hi, sweetie. Violet mom doesn't like it when you come on the camera. Cheers, you guys. That is my wife and I don't really drink alcohol very much, but this calls for a nice cocktail today. This is like a whiskey sour that my wife made. Amazing. But I don't drink, you know, and when I'm down, I don't party. I don't do any of that shit. But this is a nice little cocktail that my wife made for me. So I don't know if I'm allowed to drink an alcoholic beverage on YouTube. And I won't be getting too saucy. Don't worry. I got garden work to do. I'm gonna go put together my Cyber Clydesdale and get cranking on that machine and do some bed prep. But what are you guys saying here? That's why you can't come. You want compensation without paying for it. I get stopped at the border every time I go to Canada to tattoo, is what it is. It is what it is. That's certainly the truth. If you owned property in the US and paid taxes, do you think? No, it wouldn't matter, because I do pay taxes in the United States. My company pays taxes in the United States. And so, but my company had nothing to do with me coming down there. I mean, yeah, maybe you could make the case that it somewhat does, you know, we help promote the event and stuff like that, but it doesn't, me speaking at, whether I speak or not in person at that event has no bearing on how much money is made at that event, because unfortunately now people who bought tickets to come and see me talk in person are now just going to see me on a Zoom call, which is lame. I'll admit it, it's lame. Like I would way rather be down at that event, hanging out and having conversations on the side, even one-on-one with people. That's how I roll. I'm a super social guy, and I'm extroverted and I get energy from people. And so when I go to these events, I often give so much of myself that on the flight home, I get sick. And it's actually why I took a break from speaking, because I have a hard time not just going balls to the walls, because I'm so extroverted. I've just found out about myself over the years, that I'm so extroverted that people give me energy. And so like I can literally talk forever. I could do this, but this is different. But when I'm at an event, they have to pull me off the stage sometimes, because I'm so jacked and charged on the energy of the wicked people that are there, that I'll go all fucking day. And then I'll go and talk after the event and BS with people. Then I'll go out for burgers with people. And then I'll get like 2 nights of sleep, and I'll do it again the next night. And I can literally do that. My body has the stamina to do that. I'm that kind of guy. And that's been my secret to success my entire career, is the fact that I'm just willing to outwork most other people. I'm not particularly talented at anything. I just learned shit, and I just learned how to work my ass off and, you know, do the American way, a real Americana, you know, and that's how I roll, but not today. So, you know, it is what it is. And yeah, really seeing the comments here, and just urban, ex-urban, what kind of company? We have a C Corp, actually. A C Corp is that company, but I've owned an LLC. I've had a holdings company before. 3 different companies that I've had in the US, Washington, where else? California, Delaware, and never been an issue. So yeah, so we have wide open borders, but you aren't able to come. That's right. Exactly. And every border guard there admitted it. Well, they laughed. They all laughed. Two of the guys admitted that they knew what was going on there and they thought it was absolutely insane. And then I made a joke at the end. I said, well, shit, guys. And I'm standing around with all four of these guys at the end after the sworn statement is all done and we're all off the record now. I said, well, shit, guys, I should just go home and fly down to, I don't know, TJ or wherever the closest Mexican city is and just walk across with all the migrants and the Chinese operatives. And they said, yeah, they laughed. It was like, they thought it was hilarious because it's fucking true. Because the truth is funny. It's so insane that it's funny. And so, yeah, it's just a freak show. But, you know, not that hard to understand. I don't know what you're getting at. Yeah, no, I'm not saying I don't understand that, dude. I get all that. It's just the irony of it is ridiculous because there's literally, and it was funny. The guy said to me, I said, so you're telling me because of this article in the Immigration Act, and I get it. I get that that's there. I get that this is what it says, that having a hotel paid for or a flight paid for or whatever is considered compensation. Okay. Then how is it that there's like, I literally know hundreds of people, public speakers. I'm in that network. I've been traveling and doing conferences forever, for years. And they come across, I don't want to name names, but the guy said, would you be willing to inform on those people? I said, no, I don't want to do that. No. Holy shit. Maybe I said the wrong thing. That wasn't on the record though. So it's absolutely just mind-numbingly insane. So no border laws. The border's wide open. Border's wide open into Canada too. You go up to Roxham Road in Quebec, and they'll wave you right across. I was going to teach, and this has been happening for years, pre-COVID. I was teaching a workshop at Jean-Martin Fortier's farm, the Ferme des Catatemps, back in 2017 or 2018, maybe it was 2018. And I had a hotel booked in a little town called, was it Hudson? One of these towns right on the border, because the Ferme des Catatemps is very close to the US border. And I had a hotel booked there, a fairly nice hotel, because I was bringing my wife and my daughter, and we wanted to have a kitchenette and we wanted to have a balcony. We wanted to have space because we were going to be there for a week. The hotel called me and said, we have to cancel your reservation because the government has given us an order to create housing for illegal immigrants. So I had a paid hotel. It was some thousands of dollars because it was like a 7-day hotel. They kicked me out to make room for illegal migrants crossing at Roxham Road. I shit you not. 100%, no word of a lie. That happened. And that was years ago. So, and Trump was the president then, because they kept saying, oh, there's all these people that are afraid that neo-Nazi Trump is going to throw them in a gulag. So they're running up to Canada. And so we let them in, because that's what they say to you. Like even when I did the sworn statement at the end of it today, he says, are you worried for your life going back in? And that's where they'll let you in. Right. So if I'm worried for my life to go back to Canada, I need under whatever it is under international law, I need to get refugee status. They'll give it to you. But I'm not going to lie. I'm not afraid to go home. I want to go home. I want to get the hell out of here with you idiots and go back and spend some time with my family and get back to my life. So, you know, as far as somebody says here, will they let us in? Canada was letting Americans in for months before Americans let Canadians in with the COVID nonsense. In fact, America, and I looked into this because they just dropped, it was part of that Title 42 thing. it wasn't part of Title 42, but it was part when they did it, they dropped the COVID measures for the US border. Check this out and look it up. They dropped the COVID measures for China in January. Canada dropped it for the US prior to that. The US didn't drop it for Canada until just days ago. So that's why we did this trip, because we knew that there wasn't going to be an issue with the vaccine. Meanwhile, at this particular border crossing that I've been going to, friends in my area here have been going to the US for 6 months or more, and that border crossing just didn't ask anybody for vaccine passes. So there was certain crossings that you could just go to, and they just wave you through. And it was so funny because during the time that I was at the border there, I probably saw 20 cars and trucks go through going into the US, and one truck come up into Canada, only one. So most of it's coming down to the US, which makes sense according to population, right? But hey, Curly, you know what, dude? It's a blessing in disguise, because I get to go and play with your machine now. And that's what I'm literally going to do. I'm going to go and fix that wire you showed me to, and I'll be giving you a call shortly. But I'm going to go, and I'm hoping I can run that flail mower today. I might wait for it to cool down a bit because it's scorchingly hot right now. It's kind of hard to run machines when it's hot, but I'm going to go play around with it and get that running. So it's a blessing in disguise, really. But you know, it's just annoying because I did a lot of things to get ready for this crossing, including deleting everything off my phone, mainly because every time I cross the US, they take your phone and they plug it into a thing and they upload everything. It's insane. And so my thought was, well, this time, you know what, I'll just have a dumb phone. And I didn't have a dumb phone. So I just took my phone and I just deleted all my text messages, I backed everything up, everything. So it's like, okay, here, take my phone, fucking idiots. You want to do that, then do it. Because I was prepared. I wanted to go to the conference, right? So I was prepared. Part of me was willing just to say, no, I'm not doing that. I'll go home, you know. But I was willing to bend over, as you could say it, a little bit, so I could go down and speak at this conference. But you know, it's yeah, it's absolutely just insane. So but yeah, anybody who's chiming in now who's wondering what the hell I'm talking about, I'm going to shut this stream down. Go back and you'll get the full story on why I was turned away. And it all comes down to this article. And again, I'll say it in closing here. So because of this article under the US Immigration Act 212 brackets lowercase a brackets 7 brackets uppercase a brackets lowercase I brackets uppercase I, like these articles is so ridiculous. But under that article, it stipulates that if you're speaking somewhere and they're compensating you in any way, and that includes them paying for the flight and the hotel, but not getting paid, that's considered getting paid. So I didn't know that because I wasn't familiar with Article 212A. So, who the hell would be? You'd think I'm just going down and I'm not being paid. And I haven't touched any money. They've paid for it all. But, you know, Media Bear says they did that with your phone a few years ago. They all do the same thing now. It's all just deep state shit. I looked into it. I actually read an interesting, I think it was a Washington Post article recently about how to, you know, not get completely raped when you go through the TSA or any border crossing. And they basically said, do that. Turn your devices off, delete everything, and then just, you know, go through. And so that's what I was prepared to do. And now it's kind of annoying because now I just got to go and download all my apps again. And it's like I did all that stuff for nothing. I spent an hour doing that this morning. Yeah, LOL. What did you write on the border forms? Well, what I said, the reason for travel was I'm speaking at a conference and I'm not being paid. That was the reason. But again, according to that article, you're being paid if they're paying for your flight. And maybe that's common sense. I'm not so sure it is, but you know, but that's it. That's the reason. And there's other Canadians speaking at this conference that are under the exact same conditions as me. They're all coming in. I'm not going to name names. I don't want to inform on people, but so, you know, that's what it was. But, you know, guys, I gotta be honest with you these days. I've been doing this stuff for quite a long time. I've been making YouTube videos since 2014. And at the time when I was doing all that, I was just really keen to share what I was doing in the hopes that I'd meet other people that were doing market gardening and farming and we could learn from each other. And that was my whole incentive. I never thought I could make money on YouTube or doing any of this stuff. And then lo and behold, it turned out that I had a whole career in it. But I am tired of being a content creator to some degree, in the sense that, because the thing, and that's why I've positioned myself to be, we own a business called Freedom Farmers, and we build courses, and most of those courses aren't me anymore. We have 15 or 16 courses, and I'm only in one of them now. And that's kind of why I went in that direction, because, you know, we do well, we produce valuable content that helps people and all that. But, you know, back in the days when I was making urban farming videos, it was crazy how many views I'd get. And what that comes down to is algorithms. And because YouTube has been the main platform that I've posted to for years, and is what it's a huge reach, more than I can get anywhere else. Maybe if I put the time in for Rumble, I'd get those now, but I'm just tired of it. You know, I'm not like one of these guys like Justin Rhodes or Wrangler Star, who just want to pump a video every day and show you what's going on in the homestead and you see my kids and all that. I don't want that. That's just not what I'm in. I don't want to be a celebrity. I don't like that. I love people, but I don't like being, I like anonymity too. Like, don't get me wrong. If you see me in an airport ever and you want to say hello, don't hesitate, say hello. But at the same time, I don't give a shit about being a whatever, being a public person and being famous. I don't care about it. I'm just a working dude. And I just want to, you know, do my thing with my family and live on the land. And I've been blessed that I've been able to structure my career in a way that's taken me from, you know, being a market gardener, making money as an urban farmer, and then teaching people about that, and then making money doing that, writing a book that became a bestseller in that category, and then, you know, doing public talks, and then having the YouTube channel grow, and then starting from the field and doing all these things that have taken me where I am now. It's given me an unbelievable perspective on kind of the American dream, if you will, of, you know, capitalism, where you can just, like, I had nothing. I had nothing. I started from nothing, and I paid for my own way when I went to college, and and I've done built everything in my career myself, and I'm grateful for doing all that and the opportunity. But I got to be clear and just transparent with you that I don't really care that much about just doing this stuff so much anymore, especially when I look at how fucking brainwashed so many people are out there. Because it's hard, you know, it's not, and no complaints here, I'm no victim. But just so you know, maybe you get a bit of perspective on where I come from in my day-to-day life, is that it's not easy being a public person, you know, putting yourself out there and then seeing just retarded comments from people who just chime in for a second and have no idea what they're talking about, and then insult you and threaten you and say shitty things. And the bigger you get, the more you get it. Because like I remember before, when I was less than 100,000 subscribers, I literally had no haters. There's just all love. People come in and watch the videos, just stoked. Everybody's super happy. But then when you get past the point where your name's a bit bigger, you start just getting haters. And haters are kind of a part of the process in a way, you know, like you're almost not really a bona fide public figure until you have a good chunk of haters. But it's not easy. And sometimes I just wonder, like, who, and I see, and you know what, though, I will say, I see the comments and the emails from people who say I've changed their life, and it moves me. It brings me to tears many times, how much I've helped people. But I just don't know sometimes how much more it's going to make a difference, because there's so much stuff out there now. And so am I really moving the needle? And this is why I built the course. This is why I built the Finding the Perfect Home. I wanted to do something new. I wanted to move the needle and contribute something new. But do my, 500,000 YouTuber subscribers need another video of Curtis Stone in the garden showing you how to get aphids off your peppers, or do a birotational crop, or an interplant, or get up a high tunnel? Like, is there anything else for me to do in that space that's going to move the needle? I'm not so sure there is. And sometimes I just go, why do I even bother doing any of this? Because, like, if I can just I like making courses, because I really enjoyed this process, doing something new and bringing something new to the table. And yes, it's a paywall, but that's how it works. I can't work for 3 months and not get paid. I'll work for a few days and not get paid, like I was just going to do today to go down to the summit. But I want to be paid. I want to make money. I'm a capitalist. I don't have any problem with that. But sometimes I just wonder with the content, especially with YouTube, and I've had, I think I've only had one strike on YouTube, but it's just, you look at how this technocracy has got all these people in these online spaces shouting into an echo chamber. And who else is going to wait? Like, I guess where I'm going with this is, at what point do you say waking people up has no value anymore? It just has no value. Can you listen to any of these guys and they'll tell, like, I'm talking all the truther media, even Tucker Carlson, like, are they going to tell you anything that you didn't already know? And if so, is that going to make you change your behavior in your day-to-day life? I would make the case that for 99.99999% of people, the answer is no. It is not. That's where I say the summit that I'm speaking at tomorrow is of critical importance. It's that the talk is worth nothing anymore. The latest, oh no, did you hear what Joe Biden said? Oh no, did you hear what George Soros said? Oh no, did you hear? Like, who gives a shit at this point? None of it matters. It's like, if you're not moving the needle hardcore in your life right now to get towards freedom and get yourself autonomous and as economically independent and controlling your food, water, energy, shelter as possible, if you're not doing that right now and taking steps, and this isn't I'm not playing a judgment card here and saying if you haven't reached this or that, no. All I'm saying is, if you're not moving the needle now for you, and the only person you should compare yourself with is who you were yesterday, but if you're not moving the needle now for you, what is the point? What is the point? And that makes me wonder, like, even these, like, am I just there's 600 people you watching here right now. I'm grateful for all of you. And I see great things like Tony Vargas, brother, been watching me for years, talking about how he's changing his life and how he's getting on the land and all this stuff. And I've been hearing his stories for years now. He's moving the needle. It's like, if you're not moving the needle right now, you might as well just go to the gulag. You might as well just go to Drag Queen Story Hour and take your children. You might as well just go right into the beast. Because if you're not getting yourself to a point where you're going to have optionality once this next line in the sand comes, COVID was one of them, you're going to get thrown out in the wash. You're going to get taken in with the tide. And so I don't know, like, is anything I'm saying here actually changing anybody's opinion? I sometimes wonder, and I'm not trying to sound jaded, though I am a little annoyed that I just spent 3 hours with annoying border agents in the United States that wasted my time. But you know, it's insane. Like, how much more of this shit do you need to hear? It's like, and so I often wonder, because for me as a content creator, kind of bringing this back to where I was going with this, is that I get a little exhausted sometimes because I've made so many farm videos, like literally thousands, like between From the Field and YouTube, literally thousands of farming videos. I have nothing else to show on that. There's nothing new under the sun for that for me. And so that's why I said, okay, I'm going to kind of do this off-grid thing and kind of show some people some of that stuff. And even still there, like, I'm not really doing anything new, you know, like I'm doing what a lot of other people are doing off-grid, you know, it's nothing new. And so I just sometimes wonder if it's even worth it, if I should just disappear. Because like, I'm at a point in my career, folks, just to be clear with you, and I'm not saying this to brag. In fact, I'm kind of saying this as maybe inspiration for people who believe that you can achieve great things, because you can. I'm at a point in my career. I'm not a multi-millionaire. I probably am technically a millionaire as far as my assets are concerned. I don't have $1 million in the bank, but nor would I hold $1 million of cash in the bank. Are you kidding me? But if you look at my assets, what I've built up here, yeah, I'm probably technically a millionaire, which doesn't mean much anymore because inflation, right? But okay, whatever. I could literally go silent tomorrow and it wouldn't affect my income at all. I want to promote the course I just built, right? And that's done fairly well. But I sometimes wonder why I do this stuff. I'm just being open with you guys. Like, I'm not trying to get a sob story. I'm not trying to get sympathy, like whatever. I got a great life. I got 2 beautiful children, beautiful wife on beautiful land in the mountain with a view that will make you weep. So I got no sob story there, but I sometimes wonder if any of it's worth it anymore, because it's like, if you guys aren't mobilizing, and that's all I want to see, is people getting shit done. That's why I was so stoked to go to the conference, hang out with Jack Spirko, guy I've known the guy for years. First met him down in Temecula, California, the first Permaculture Voices conference. Really hit it off, and realizing, fuck man, there's so many people in the States that are like me. I'm not like most Canadians. And just hang out and talk about the nitty gritty and hear the stories. I wanted to hear your guys's in person, over whether it's you know, I don't know if people smoke weed in Texas, but I smoke weed, you know, smoke a joint in the parking lot, tell me a story or whatever, right? Like, just hang out and hear the stories. And that fuels me. Whereas doing things online just doesn't do it in the same way. It just doesn't. Like, yeah, I can read great comments, and I do every day, and I read people's comments, and I read the good and the bad ones too. But it's the stories of hanging out with people that is worth it. And so I would still encourage people to go to the conference, because even though that I'm not there, there's a lot of really good people speaking at that conference, and really good. This is a conference that has a lot of value to offer, far above and beyond rhetoric, right? You want to talk about useful information, that's this conference. And this is why I signed up. I get invited to conferences still. I still get invited to conferences all the time, and I don't go, because I don't. Most of it's woke. When I was doing the urban farming thing, it was social justice through and through. It was through and through. And I'll tell you a funny story. Actually, one of my closest friends, Jean-Martin Fortier, he was going down to speak at Eco Farm, and I don't know if he wants me to tell the story, but I'm going to tell it. I don't think he'll care. He was going down to speak at Eco Farm in California, and JM, Jean-Martin Fortier, I call him JM. He just doesn't care about politics. Okay. He just doesn't go there. And he can hang out with me, knowing that people call me alt right and blah blah blah. Curtis is a white supremacist because he doesn't believe in open borders or whatever it is, right? I hang out, and JM and I can hang out and have a good time and have a couple beers, and we're friends, right? And we don't care about each other's personal views. But anyway, he went down to go and speak at Eco Farm, and they canceled him. And he's not political at all. But one time on his farm, he hired a feminist, which he shouldn't have done. And I told him not to. But he hired a feminist, and that feminist had a chip on her shoulder, and JM gave her a job and working on this beautiful farm. And it's absolute gravy. You want to see the most hardcore market farm, best regenerative business model I've ever seen in my life is Le Farm du Capitan. The billionaire fund, not necessarily a good billionaire, but whatever, fund by a billionaire. JM set it all up. And they had a work party once, and JM and his 16-year-old son were listening to some rap music in the car, and they were rapping along, and the N-word came out in the rap song, and JM mouthed the N-word, and the feminist saw him say the N-word, and she almost had a heart attack. And so she caused a big stir up there, and then she quit, and then she went back down to the US, or I think she's American, and it got wind to Clara Coleman, who's Elliot Coleman's daughter, who's also brainwashed by woke. And they tried to cancel JM because he mouthed the N-word in a rap song that had it one time. And they tried to cancel him. And that got to the board of directors at Eco Farm. And JM, the market gardener, was going to speak at Eco Farm, had his plane ticket booked and everything. And they canceled him because some number of years ago, a feminist saw him say the N-word. That's where we're at, right? That's why I stopped speaking at those conferences, because I even saw it, like, even with Diego Fooder and the Permaculture Voices conference. Diego is not woke, and myself and Jack Spirko and a number of other people were calling this stuff out back then, and social media was just a nasty, and that's why I got off social media, because I got so tired of these feminists coming at me, and it was just insane. But I stopped. This is the primary reason I stopped the whole urban farmer thing, stopped going to the conferences, stopped even talking about it, is because the whole space got so woke. Like every conference, I would go down to some conferences in the US, and I won't name names because the people that brought me there were good people and whatever. But I would look at the topics on these conferences, and I'm not kidding you, especially in terms of eco farm, this is exactly the case. More than half of the subjects are social justice. So it's not about farming anymore. It's the social justice Marxist garbage has infiltrated everything, and fortunately hasn't infiltrated the off-grid space yet. but it's infiltrated everything, and I got tired of it because I was going down to all these conferences, and I just had a hard time keeping my mouth shut. How far is wokeness going? Where does it all end? I don't know where it all ends, man, because I thought in 2016, when I was really into Jordan Peterson back in 2016, because he's a Canadian, and there was a bit more. I met him in 2017, but there in Vancouver, had a nice brief exchange with him. But I was into that stuff then, and at that time, I was like, how far can this go? And I asked Peterson that. I was like, how far do you think this stuff can go? His answer wasn't really that interesting, but I thought it was insane then. And where it is now is, I don't think there's an end. I think, and I said this as a joke, I made a video in the winter titled "What We Really Need Is a Blue Wave." And I was being sarcastic, obviously, but I was making the case that it's almost that if the question is, how far will it go? The answer, in a way, from a utilitarian standpoint, that's where I'm coming from, is that I just want it to be over, and I want us to blow the dust off and just end this shit. Is that the only way is absolute collapse. So full Democrat control, full liberalism, insanity, mandatory this, mandatory that. That's where it almost needs to go in order for people to just go, absolutely no. But people just go along with this shit. They just go along. Even that border guard today, we were talking about COVID, and I was like, what was it like working here at that time? And it was a funny interaction, because I was just sitting on the bench, and there was people coming through every 5 minutes. It was quite constant, but we would just BS. And it was like the guy, I got enough rapport with the guy eventually that we were just talking pretty openly about stuff. And I was like, what was it like during the COVID stuff? He said it was fucking hell. He said it was absolute hell. He's like, our hours were totally reduced. I almost went broke. He just said it was absolutely hell. And we were talking about the masks and all that. And he's like, yeah, I never had to wear a mask in town. I mean, obviously he probably had to wear a mask at work, but he's like, in town, I'm not wearing a mask doing anything. So it's like, yeah, okay, you're awake, but so what? You're working for the beast. You're working for the system. It's and then the Mad Max thing. So George says here, like, Mad Max, we're coming to town near you. Maybe. At the same time, one thing I've learned about the New World Order, because I've been reading the white papers for so long and just going right into their documents. These guys write books, again, I always push Jay Dyer and Richard Grove, but these guys show you the books, and you can't even order a lot of these books anymore, but they're out there. Zygmunt Brzezinski has written many books, and he lays out, Henry Kissinger too, like these guys lay this shit out, is that everything that's happened now up until this point has been pretty much written about, in the sense that, basically a medicalized technocracy, using climate change under the Club of Rome, Maurice Strong, all these cronies that wanted to use climate change as this unifying thing to bring in a new world order, as they put it in their own books. They've written about that stuff, but what they haven't written about, at least to my knowledge, and if somebody knows I'm wrong on this, please tell me, because I haven't read as many books as Jay or Richard. But I have not written or read about how or if they're going to round people up in the proverbial, it's going to be Mad Max world, all this stuff kind of thing. I haven't read about that. And so what I have observed over the last kind of 20 years of my awakening, 20 plus years now, is that everything that has happened has been written about. Literally everything, whether you want to talk about Event 201 and then the COVID scamdemic, or even 9/11 that was alluded to in literature of these cronies. And then you get into like Project Bluebeam and stuff, and then you go, okay, well, what's next? That's been written about, Project Bluebeam, fake alien invasion, but they haven't written about rounding people up on the homestead. And so what I've been saying for years now, especially since the scamdemic, is all you can trust is your own eyes. And so forget the rhetoric, forget what Alex Jones says today, because he says that a lot and sensationalizes people rounding you up. But it's like, where is that actually written? And so again, I'm pointing to a correlation that I've observed in that everything we have seen has been written about, literally. But I haven't written about the proverbial roundups. And so I say this in a way to give you hope in some regard, in that people think that if you listen to some of the sensationalized stuff, and I listen to that, man. I'll listen to Glenn Beck every now and then. I take it for what it's worth. I know that people could be compromised or whatever, but I'll listen to Glenn Beck. I'll listen to some of those guys on the Daily Wire. I'll listen to Alex Jones. I'll listen to Richard Grove and Jay Dyer, and I kind of like what those guys, hi sweetie, what those guys say more than the because those guys don't sensationalize shit. They just show you. Whereas Alex Jones, Glenn Beck, even Mike Adams to some degree, will sensationalize stuff. Oh, they're coming for us all and stuff. Well, I don't know where you're getting that from, because I don't see that in any other literature. And if somebody knows a book written by some of these technocrats, please let me know, where they talk about how they're going to round up people in the country, because I just don't see that. And so in a way that gives me a lot of hope, because it's easy to see where it's going to go if you read where they want to take it. And all these guys, they all write books, right? All these cronies write books. And even the sexualization stuff, all the crazy transgender stuff. Read that guy, Alan Kinsey. That guy was insane. Is it Alan Kinsey? They made a movie about this guy. Was doing all this crazy stuff with children. It was like on the record, in the books, talking about, the Tavistock Institute, talking about using transgenderism as a way to reduce the population. Like literally, that is on the record. And these technocrats are all tied to people that are in the state, on the record. And Technocracy by Patrick Wood. Yeah, but see, Patrick Wood doesn't make those claims. Patrick Wood, I actually thought Patrick Wood was actually gonna be there in person. I was really stoked to talk to him. He'll be there virtually at the summit. But Patrick Wood's books are very good. Just as right in the details, right? Telling you where it's written, how he's getting this information, very clear. Just like Robert F. Kennedy's book about Fauci, I read it, it says bang on. The guy cites everything. There's no hearsay, no guessing, no theory. It's just straight up, right? And that's where it kind of gets frustrating, too, because even for me as a content creator, I get these idiots who chime in and say, "Oh, Curtis is a right-wing conspiracy theory." It's like, no, I don't talk about theory. I don't talk about any theory. I talk about what's written, and you can disagree with my interpretation of that conclusion, but I'm not talking about theory. And so it can be sometimes a little disheartening when you're putting yourself out there, knowing that, number one, either most people know the stuff but are not going to do anything about it in their day-to-day lives, or number two, a lot of people will just go along to get along. And then that's where you say to yourself, well, why would I want to stay? Why would I want to stay? Why would I want to partake in this at all? Because then you risk getting pulled out with the tide, right? No, I didn't get denied over the job. The job's done, guys. It's got nothing to do. The US is open for business. At least I thought. And you'll have to go back in this video because I'm not going to repeat it again. But it really hits close to home. But then I get to come home and see my little girl and be with my family and stuff. So at the end of the day, hey, maybe I saved myself being involved in a shooting. God forbid, there was a shooting in Texas recently, like people are going nuts. The psyops are going nuts. And I think if you ask me, and I'll speculate on this and I can't prove it, but I think all those mass shootings are all controlled. It's all deep state operations. All these guys had connections to the CIA, all mind controlled. Americans don't do that stuff, man. I've been in the heart of the US. I've been to 42 US states, including Hawaii. And every American I meet, I like. I don't see where are these neo-Nazis? Even where are these Antifa thugs? I mean, they're there. I know there's more of those guys than there is neo-Nazis. I actually seen some of that shit in San Francisco. I was one time doing a talk in San Francisco, and they put me up at somebody's house who was a member of the what they called the Black Bloc anarchists. And I sat in on a conversation, and I wasn't fully away. I wasn't totally departed from their side at that point, but I just hear these guys talking about smash and shit. And I was just like, why do you guys want to do that? Like, these are just hardworking middle-class people. You want to smash their businesses to make a point. It got really heavy. I was like, I got to get out of here. I'll see you guys later. But there's that. But where are these neo-Nazis? Like, I've been to the most redneck moonshine places of the United States, and I've never seen anybody claim to be a neo-Nazi yet. The president of the United States, so-called president of the United States, is sitting there saying that white supremacists is the greatest threat to America. Meanwhile, he's got millions of illegal migrants, MS-13, you name it, coming across the border willy-nilly, and then they turn me around because I want to come and speak at a conference for free. And I love the good old boys, man. That's the thing. Like I'm an American in my heart, because Canadians have a lot of the same values as Americans, but I'm certainly not your average Canadian. And that's partly why it's easy to be successful in Canada, is because most people, there's a higher percentage of people in Canada that want to go along to get along than there is in the US. So if you're willing to work harder than the average person, you can actually get ahead quite easily here. And our laws are so willy-nilly that the State Department won't kick your door down for an infraction, and you can kick the can down the road in a civil forfeiture, all kinds of stuff, you name it, for forever. Whereas in the US, they'll come and just kick the shit out of you. But in Canada, they don't do that. And so it's interesting, because it's actually, from my perception, as a guy who's owned 3 businesses in the United States, been to 42 US states, including Hawaii, and spent the vast majority of my career as a public speaker and consultant in the United States, I can tell you that Canada is far more free than the US. And it's a sad state of affairs in the US. And people, I thank you, JNYC. Thank you. I do embody, I take pride in, and thank you for saying that. I take pride in that sentiment. I do embody the American spirit. That is, yeah. If you can afford to live in Canada, Chris J says, but you pay way less taxes. Property taxes aren't even a fifth of what they are in the US here. And I can tell you that because I've looked at listings across the US, mostly in the US, and Canada for years. And literally property, I seen some states, I looked at some properties, like in Arizona, rural properties with $20,000 in taxes a year. Rural property in Canada, I've never seen anything more than 1,000 or a couple thousand. My property taxes up here are $700 a year. $700 a year. You know, I can afford to pay that. Yeah, Roger Stone example would be in railroad, but it's just crazy. It's just crazy where things are at these days. And yeah, I don't know. I think really what I want to say in closing is that I really am sincerely sorry to the folks that wanted to meet me down there in Bastrop, Texas. My most sincere apologies for not making it down there. I kind of had, and I told John at the beginning when he invited me, I said, you know, I have had issues with the border for years. He's like, dude, we got people coming from all over. No problems. Other people coming from Canada, no problems. And so I said, okay, well, I'm willing to try it again, because I really would like to come to Texas, and I'm willing to speak for free. And so, no good. But knowing what I know now, okay, would I have paid for it all myself? I don't know, maybe not. I mean, that maybe, but like, isn't it crazy to think that to get a guy from Canada to come down and speak, he's got to pay for everything himself on his own dime and then come and work? It's like, wouldn't it be reasonable to pay for his accommodation and travel, and then at least he's only donating his time? Wouldn't that be a reasonable thing? But it's not, because the US is insane. It's absolutely insane. And it's all insane. It isn't just the US, but the reason why I focus on the US is, number one, I just came from there. And number two, the US is unfortunately still the cultural leader of the world and the financial leader. That it's like Reagan said, and it's a cliche, and I know Reagan was an operative, but it's like, if we lose freedom here, we lose it everywhere. And I think that's true. And I think that's why the effort is more than ever to destroy the US, the United States of America. The United States is a corporation. The United States of America is the land, and is the what was written into the Constitution. But that was changed in the Organic Act of 1871, where the US became a corporation, a foreign corporation operating on foreign land, as Washington, D.C. is. It's not the United States of America. It's the United States. They're different. Look it up. Yeah, what are you saying here, Rob? I used to use an H-1B1 to consult in the US, now reside here. Still can take money, but will allow payment to your native soil company, but at the time that they still did not allow perks. Yeah, so it seems to me like if I ever want to come to the US again, I have to get the B1 visa. But I don't even know if I care anymore, to be honest. At this point, it's like, fuck, I'm happy to stay up here in the homestead for the rest of my life. That's why I moved here, you know. So are there any jobs that in rural areas that pay? Yeah. Learn how to operate a chainsaw. Learn how to do construction. Learn how to use your hands. You know, don't try to be the next YouTuber. And that's too the whole era. Like we're coming to an end of an era with content because it's becoming so, like, you're going to see Twitter's going to go back to what it was. YouTube is probably going to cancel me and many other. I'm amazed that Doug and Stacy are still on YouTube with the stuff that Doug's been saying lately about chemtrails. It's all true. But I'm amazed that he's still posting. And I got tons of infractions or warnings, and then I got an official warning when I started saying stuff like that. Seems to be different in these live streams, and that's why I delete them, is just because I don't want my YouTube channel to be deleted. You know, I have other people in my business that we use. My YouTube channel is our greatest reach. I mean, our email list is pretty epic now, and we do fairly well on that. But you know, YouTube is still a pretty big, you know, way to get the message across. But yeah, sometimes I just go, fuck, I could just be here now and just do that, you know. But people on acreage will be the first to hit. I don't know, where are you getting that? I just don't see that. Where is that written? The technocrats always tell you what they're going to do. And I have never read a document that says people would be rounded up in the country. So, best time to plant trees 10 years ago. I know. So anyways, guys, I'm going to leave it there. That was longer than I thought it would be. Haven't done a stream for a while. I'll keep this up for maybe a couple days. But yeah, guys, I'm sorry that I'm not there at the summit, and I'll be there on the Zoom call. So you'll still get the content that you paid for. And I got an offer bundled up with the Exit and Build Summit that if people want to take my course, there's an offer in there. And yeah, folks, sorry I can't hang out down in Texas. Was really stoked, but I'm gonna get back into the garden. I'm gonna go put together my Cyber Clydesdale from Curly's Ag from Australia. It took 3 or 4 months to get here. Massive machine. It's pretty sweet, and I'm hoping I can get it running today. All right, guys, we will see you another time. And for all of you who showed up late, wondering what I'm talking about, you can go back to the beginning, and I told the whole story there. All right, guys, have an awesome day, and we'll see you again another time.